So let's talk about what happens if you don't properly protect these bearings. Okay, here's a competitor's pump, and here we can see that the bearings are rusted and corroded. And how did this happen? You see those little white piece below the bearings? That's the seal, and either fumes or liquid got past that seal. So that can occur because you may have chemical incompatibility. Our competitors generally offer only Viton. And Viton's good, but there's a lot of chemicals it does not cover. For example, sodium hydroxide or caustic. So what do we do different on the flux pump? Well, I'm going to show you here in a second. First of all, I'm going to take this 424 apart, and please notice that the foot piece unthreads. And on our poly pump, in our virtually every pump, the impellers are ETFE. These are very strong and corrosion resistant. Now on the stainless pump, we can get a stainless steel impeller if you like. Okay, now we have top pull-out as well on this design, and we can easily remove the dry shaft and the bearings. Okay, the bearings unthread from the shaft. Now let's talk about this for a second. Over time, this dry shaft will wear as it's riding on this lower bushing. Now it may take years, but in time there's enough play in the shaft that it needs to be replaced. Well, this shaft is Hastelloy C. It's about $200. So rather than replace it, we can flip it over, put the bearings assembly on the other end, and we have a fresh surface, and the worn surface is in an area where it does no harm. So that's giving the customer $200 back. So if there's any complaints about the fact that the flux price is a little higher, there's the payback right there. Now also we're looking at the bearing assembly, and this can be sold as this assembly or individual parts. So the coupling star, the red piece, or the bearings themselves usually about 16 bucks. The red piece, which the coupling star is designed to be the weak link. So if the customer were to pump a nut or a bolt inadvertently, it would break the coupling star rather than bend the dry shaft or damage the impeller. This is $3. Now to put that in perspective, our competitors refuse to sell that coupling star on their model. They require the customer purchase the entire coupling, which is 10 times the cost. So a little bit of an aggravation point right there. So looking further at what makes the flux design unique, I have a cutaway view, and let's take a look at this here. And we can see that in our design we have a double lip seal. Now this happens to be Viton as well, but we offer this in 4 different materials. So in addition to Viton, we have EPDM, PTFE, and CalRes. So anytime we have an application, we always want to check Viton because every pump has it, and if Viton's not compatible, we can switch it over to another material. Okay, so further comparisons I think would be helpful when we look at the competition. So let me grab another competitor's pump here, and let's talk about their design a little bit. Okay, so many of you recognize this, and this pump has what I call breakage issues. So long before parts wear out, there's a tendency for parts to break, and the number one component is the hand wheel, because these pumps, being portable like ours, they get leaned against the wall and so forth. So if they take a header, this is what breaks. So these are about $35 these days. And then the coupling, you may have noticed our coupling is recessed, whereas on the competitor's brand it sits up, so these can inadvertently be broken as well. But more commonly we're breaking or losing the foot piece. It's snap-on, so very often just pulling it out of a drum, these get lost. You're not going to fish this out of a drum of sulfuric acid. They're also flimsy, so when operators drop these into the drum, if this gets a crack in it, these impellers are turning 10,000 RPM. This blade hitting the crack, it's gone. So you're not pumping any product. You can almost break these off with your fingers. Now compare that to the flux impeller. Even if we had a cracked foot piece as well, it's going to shave this down. You're still in business pumping fluid. Okay, another aspect of the design is the wear surface. So on the lower bearing housing, and we're going to do a close-up here in a second, you can see here that we have an area that's cut away. And you see this white area. Okay, I'm going to hold up now the piece that we cut away. And I think you can see, hopefully focusing in here, that it's relatively paper thin. And compare that to the FLUX lower bearing housing, or bearing wear surface. It's about 4 times as thick. So that means it's going to be 4 times as long before shaft deflection wants to occur. So in our design, in the FLUX design, you may have noticed this spiral. That is supporting the dry shaft in the middle of the pump. We also have larger bearings at the top and the 4 times the wear piece on the bottom. So when the competitor's pump wears, at the bottom you start getting shaft deflection. Now, initially when these pumps are immersed into the fluid, the fumes that you're pumping, the fumes of the product will come up the inner tube. Now let's take another look at this, Taylor. Hopefully I can get this on camera, but you can see that dry shaft coming through. That's where the fumes come up and they come in contact with this seal. So if it's not compatible, there's going to be a chemical attack and those bearings will not have a long life. But as shaft deflection occurs, you now have a pumping action up the inner tube, and then in that case fluid also comes up and starts dripping out of the weep hole. So this is a very dangerous scenario. Imagine pumping sulfuric acid with product dripping out. Now also when the bearings fail on this pump, they will not sell the bearings. You have to buy this entire metal flange bearing housing, which is about $110 these days. So just kind of a quick summary. If we look at the pump from top to bottom, we have a superior design on the foot piece, the impeller, the wear surface, the support in the middle, the double lip seal, the 4 materials, the fact that we'll sell components individually, and no dangerous weep hole. And also, no reversible shaft. There's a shoulder here that takes that opportunity away.